Welcome to the MasterMIND Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us for weekly sessions led by industry pros, where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. From heat management to site optimization, our monthly deep dives cover the technical know-how you need to succeed. And with access to our entire back catalog, you'll never miss a beat. But that's not all. Our members enjoy exclusive one-on-one sessions with veteran miners, plus direct access to special pre-sales and insider opportunities at Bitcoin Mining World. Ready to take your mining to the next level? Join the MasterMIND Club today and secure your spot in the future of Bitcoin mining. Visit bitcoinminingworld.com or scan the QR code now. And now back to the show.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another installment of our MasterMIND monthly deep dives. These are actually now bi-weekly deep dives. Either way, today we are here with Fred, Adina, and Sarah. They are all part of the REAP program and they help people get grants and loans for rural America, building out solar in They'll kind of explain it a little better than I am. But if you're building a Bitcoin mine specifically for us, our situation, if you're building a Bitcoin mining operation in rural America and you're using renewable energies like wind and solar, these wonderful ladies and Fred can help you out, help you get a loan or a grant that can help you build out your mining operations more profitably and secure that money so that you can build more efficiently. So I'm going to really just kind of let them rip into it. Looks like we have about 66 people viewing so far. So really excited about that. Stay tuned to the end because Fred, Adina, and Sarah will be answering questions that you guys might have. And we also have an Apollo 2 giveaway that we're going to be doing at the very end of this. So guys, I'm going to pop off screen. I'm going to let you guys rip. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm excited about this.
Okay. Whoa, what just happened? Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Fred Barber. I'm the founder and CEO of Cool Crypto Convo. It's just a little nonprofit organization that's attempting to spread the word and help the world with Bitcoin. Today, we're going to talk about the REAP and CCG grants, and I'll get into more detail about that in just a second. And that's to increase your longevity. It's to save you money, make you money, no matter how you slice it, though. The longer that you thrive, the more decentralized the Bitcoin network is. And I think that's a healthy thing for all of mankind, quite literally. I'm Fred Barber. Some of you may not believe it because I shaved off my my mustache and my beard yesterday to put on a breathing apparatus so I can take a look at a factory in another site that are possible Bitcoin locations. Hey, may I ask a question? The slides went down. I don't want to look at myself. I'd rather look at the slides. Thank you, sir. The long and short of it is, I spent a couple of decades in the military. I started out in Bitcoin at that point in time, many moons ago. I'm going to say 2011. It's a guesstimate because back then you could convince people to give you some of their Bitcoin with cash money, right? It's a lot different world. But now, I'm retired. I can actually talk about cryptocurrency without being harassed by my bosses. That true story once that actually happened where I got called into a general's office for talking about this digital money. The next day, he apologized because on CNN or Fox News or one of them, there was a hacker that hacked the company and he only wanted to be paid in Bitcoin. So that was like quick karma. It came back. What I want to say before I get into it is that I brought the best two grant writers in the country, in my opinion, for REAP and CCG out there. And I don't say that lightheartedly. I feel like we're in the middle of an operation. I call it Operation Proliferation. That's the spread of Bitcoin around the world. And, Scott will tell you, I brought him down to Miami a few months back to get some folks involved. And I'm trying to get you all involved to help you save money, because when you listen to what these grants have to offer, there's a tremendous opportunity for all of you to excel. So let's get into it. The bigger picture, I just spoke about Operation Proliferation. At CCC, I created like a life cycle snapshot of Bitcoin as a whole, from its origins, right? The DNA that Satoshi Nakamoto used to build Bitcoin, all the way throughout to the last Bitcoin being mined. And the intent of these next two slides, that'll take about 2 or 3 minutes, is to show you that you're part of a larger process. It's a larger picture. And if we can get this thing to spread, it'll be fantastic. And it's about the first piece is about miners. So if you look down there, it says, the 4 phases of Bitcoin, and you go down to phase 3, that's what we're in right now. That just started at the last halving. For those that don't know, every 4 years, Bitcoin's mining rewards gets cut in half. So everyone that's in the mining business knows that your revenue in terms of Satoshis gets cut in half every 4 years. And so what we have is folks that come up, dielectric fluid. I see people buying hydroelectric dams, building solar, moving to new jurisdictions and countries to reduce that cost to stay viable, which keeps the Bitcoin network healthy. Diversification is a healthy thing. So what the bottom line for REAP and the community change grants, what they can do is reduce that cost even further, so that you own some or all of your electricity when this is over. And in business, we call that being vertically integrated, right? That's when, you own your land, you own your source of electricity, you own your own facilities. And then that way, when you get down the road to 2032, and that halving cycle is only paying you 0.78 Bitcoins per block, and the whole world knows about it, you're in a situation where you're not going to feel the pressure as much as those that haven't prepared. Okay, so Operation Proliferation has 2 main pieces to it. This is my own personal pitch. You guys can come back to me. And the reason why I call this, how can I say this? The name Cool Crypto Combo is literally in place so that you know that I actually like for people to disagree and tell me what they think, so I can learn from you and you can learn from me. Because in an intellectual conversation, we can all benefit. And by the end of this, I think all of you are going to realize you need to give Sarah a call or Adina a call, and you wish you would have done it yesterday. All right. So here we go. I believe that Bitcoin has a circulator, everybody, right? And I'm a hodler. I was just telling Trevor a second ago, one of the hosts and technicians behind the show, that I have some Satoshis that I bought with cash, 12, 13 years ago, man. And they haven't moved, and they're not going to move. And I don't think anyone's going to move their sats or their Bitcoin, right? And Sarah, Satoshi is 1 millionth of 1 Bitcoin. No one's going to move them unless, there's a process in place to do that. But until we get to that point, we have to ensure that the economic incentive to continue to mine is still there, right? So if you cut costs and revenue is getting cost, if you have your revenue and you cut costs and increase your profit. So Operation Proliferation, it has to circulate. If all of us are holding and hodling like I'm doing, then nothing is circulating. And so your block reward that you get every 4 years, that's going down, 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 down. To offset that, the transaction fees have to go up. They hadn't been doing that at a good clip. And if too many miners check out, you have to ask yourself whether or not the network will still be secure. So I call it re-centralization, right? A lot of folks out there, I hear, was it Michael Saylor and Max and those guys, they'll talk about SHA-256 encryption. I agree 1000%. You can't hack it. But if I were the bad guy and I were going to attack Bitcoin, I'd attack you, the miner. I'd wait till after each halving. I'd buy out more and more and more. I'd get the latest stuff. I'd increase the hash rate, and I'd report to the whole world that everything's good. When I control enough of the network, now I can start making adjustments down the road. And because we're a decentralized community by nature, that is a legitimate risk, right? The chances are greater than zero that something like that could happen. And we already know that mining pools hold a lot of pool right now. So the main effort, right, is to support our miners. That's the focus. Eventually, I'm going to submit some Bitcoin improvement proposals. I know a lot of people out there believe that Bitcoin is perfect. I always remind them, a Bitcoin improvement proposal, there've been 130 of them or more that have been approved. That's to improve something, right? You can't, if something is perfect, you can't improve on it. And it's such a simple thing, but it's like, hey man, transactions per second, we still have some things that we have to work through as a community, but the focus is so much on the price. And I understand that it's so much on the price that sometimes we forget that what's in the backdrop that makes it immutable, that makes it secure, that makes it decentralized, are women and men just like you. They don't know that somebody's back there switching out, an electrical component. They don't know that Scott's running around helping people build new sites to keep this digital asset functioning. Because real people, real miners, real core developers are out there constantly making this network work. And if we don't ensure that we create programs and expose them to programs to make them profitable, they'll leave, they'll transition away. And we don't want that, because we have a chance to save the world here. So that brings me to my next piece. Part of the supporting effort to getting, the network to continue to thrive is the educational piece. We have maxi misnomers where we teach people about things that they think that are so, they just aren't so. And then there's just hardcore, straight up in your face, this is how you can save a whole lot of money. And when we talk about the money printer printing, some of that money goes to various different programs. This may be one of them, right? The government's CCG, I think, cranks out $10 to $20 million per approval for community change programs. You can integrate that into your Bitcoin journey to make yourself more successful and make the network more successful. So let's just go over to this next one, boom, and then we're going to get into the grant. I talked about the 4 phases, right, of Bitcoin's life cycle. I tell a lot of young folks, hey, if you look at the 3rd page of the Bitcoin white paper, at the top, I think it starts paragraph number 4, Satoshi Nakamoto actually acknowledges that he's going to use a proof of work concept that is similar to that of Hashcash. That makes Hashcash's DNA part of Bitcoin's DNA. It may not be exactly the same, but Bitcoin definitely has an uncle and an auntie out there. And the best of these pieces were all put together, and we came up with a product, or he came up with a product that really can change the world by solving the Byzantine generals problem, Gresham's law here pretty soon, and some other things. So that was phase 1. I always consider that phase 1, right? Phase 2 is what I call the major mining era. And that's when pioneers like yourselves, pioneers new folks entering the network are coming on. When it started, it was 50 Bitcoin per 10-minute block that got approved, right? It's incredible. But because Bitcoin's mining protocol is logarithmic, and the further you go into time, the slower it gets, right? It's like logarithmic actions are like the twin brother to exponential growth. But exponential is sexy. Everybody likes to see that price, man. Price. I can remember Bitcoin being like 30, 40 bucks, right? Now it's what? 60, 70,000 on any given day. Okay. Well, on the back end of that, the miners, and you guys know this, no one's mining with a laptop anymore. No one's mining with a GPU or a S9 for the most part, right? Unless they own their own electricity. And they can do a lot better with, S21s and whatever else new that's coming out, their dielectric fluid and all that kind of stuff. So keep in mind this major mining era with a short 13 to 15-year time span where literally 93, 94% of the asset has been mined. That's logarithmic in nature. Now, from this point where that star is out to 2141, where we think that the rest of Bitcoin, and we know that the rest of Bitcoin will be mined, that's, it's 6% left, right? 6% left. So let me put something in perspective, and then we'll go on and get into the REIT. 30 seconds. In the first year of Bitcoin existence, more than 6% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist was mined, right? In fact, more was mined in that year that will be mined in the next 118 years, right? Now, here's where the re-centralization problem bothers me with fiat, Gresham's law, bad money chasing out good money, and we're all hodling. I'm guilty of it too. In the last 6-7 months, between the ETFs and what's that guy, Michael Saylor, right? Michael Strategy and those guys, they've accumulated more Bitcoin under their control, right, than what will be mined in the next 120 years. Now, that's the initial 21 million, and there aren't going to be any more made. In the interim, some kind of way, we got to figure out where enough of that 21 million is circulating so that the transaction fees are enough to sustain all of you guys. Until then, we got to cut costs. We got to come up with more efficient methods and models to ensure that we collectively win as a team. So let's get into it. Let's get into this pill. Here's the deal. Clean Power Consultants. Here in the United States, because there may be some folks internationally that are out there, hey, they're getting more than $25 million in grants approved in a quarter, man. That's nothing to sneeze at. And if you Google REIT grant, every now and then you're going to see Clean Power Consultants pop up. And it's these two lovely ladies, man, they're doing it. I'm like, wow, I know people that are really at the top of their field. It's outstanding. And that goes for Scott too, right? Great guy, really laid back, I was supposed to talk about REIT. Scott, I told Trevor this morning, man, I had to include the community change grant because that's up to $10 to $20 million. And there may be some people that are in a position to take advantage of this, like I am right now. That's why I shaved all my facial hair off and went to that plant yesterday. I took this piece off because that might be a little bit too much time-wise, but I just really feel like knowing about it will help. So let's continue. Here's a REIT grant, everybody, right? So the REIT grant, we go over some eligibility pieces here, right? The purpose of the grant, right, is to provide funding for rural small businesses and agricultural producers to invest in renewable energy systems, right? In energy efficiency improvements. Man, my mouth's getting dry. A lot of people think that, hey, I got to own a big old farm. Nope, not true. If you're in a rural area and you own a business and you're out in the countryside, and that's where all the land is anyway, you can make some things happen. For profit, not a problem. Okay, not a problem. Rural sole proprietors, right? So you own your house, you don't necessarily own a business. I wouldn't recommend doing it that way, but you're still eligible for the REIT. Electric co-ops, I know some of you guys are really big out there. You can make that happen. American Indian and tribal governments can get involved with it. I actually went and spoke to the Lumbee Indian tribe here last week in a small town to see if they were interested in partnering, because I'm looking at the second of those, the community change grant. And I would really love to help their community and help myself at the same time. That's okay. And then agricultural producers. Now, here's the kicker. You don't have to be out in the countryside if you're an agricultural producer. I know someone that's on this call right now that's getting into aquaponics, and you can do aquaponics inside a warehouse inside of the city. So if your thing is converting an old building and growing cucumbers in downtown Manhattan, and that's your thing, there's a possibility that you could get approved. You just got to make sure you get those requirements locked in. So nonprofit for REIT is a no-go, but for the CCG, we'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, the REIT grant, here's the beauty of the REIT grant. Let me hit this button here. Okay. Eligible. I just want to go to the end and tell y'all something right quick. REIT grant is going to pay you 50% of the total cost of the grant back once you turn the system on. So let me go back. I didn't do that the right way, because I know a lot of people want to say, why is this important to me? It's important because they're going to give you half your money back a month after you turn the system on, after you initialize the system. So what's eligible? A good array of projects. You got solar, wind, hydro, ocean energy. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of wave energy. If you live in the coastal area on an island out in the ocean, hey, geothermal. I have that on my house. Man, I wish I had known. Just this anaerobic digester, if I'm not mistaken, I know Pete talked about processing poo, and using it for energy. And if you're doing that, it qualifies for REIT. Man, they're throwing me off. Somebody said, with sailing for POTUS. Okay. Hydrogen and biomass and all those things are also included. Now, here's another piece. The battery backup, if it's part of a larger system, renewable energy system, there's a possibility of getting that approved. It's just that I'm not so sure that you can just buy a whole bunch of batteries and swap out energy from the local coal plant, buy it when it's at nighttime. I do that. I have a Tesla, and you can manipulate the parameters on batteries to save money between peak hours and low hours. But we'll let the experts talk about that here in a bit. The grant incentives, like I said before, the standard REIT grant, if you're putting let's say I'm putting 2-3 megawatts out because I own, so many acres out back. Yeah, if I put $2 million, $2 million project, I can get $1 million back on that project. Now, Adina was like, you don't need to put the minimum. I was like, yeah, you do need to put the minimum, because some people like me don't have $2 million to just throw around, right? Maybe I want to do a small project. If you do a $5,000 project, they'll pay you, the minimum is that $2,500. So this is not just for people with deep pockets and all that. No, it really is inclusive. You know what I mean? So if you're out there and you're wondering if you can do it, start off with a small project in your backyard, see that it works, watch the check come in 30 days later, and then you can grow from there. And I always say, hey man, If you can do a $5,000 project, a year later, it is highly likely you can do a $10,000 project because you got half your money back and now you've increased your cash flow based on that first project, okay? Another piece, if you can show that you improve the energy efficiency of your current operation by 10%, you can qualify under REAP for $500,000, right? But now here's the kicker. I got to explain this. You can't do the energy efficiency improvement project in the same quarter as your initial project. So yeah, you can qualify up to $1.5 million, but you just can't do those projects simultaneously. You know, they don't want you to rob Peter to pay Paul. And I'll give you a good example. At Scott's mining conference here in Minnesota, we were in a place called Brainerd, right? They had a portion of their miners were using air cooling, and then they had the dielectric fluid in there, man. And that's the first time I've ever seen it outside of a mining conference, right? This is the first time I've seen it in real life. And that dielectric fluid improves the efficiency of those miners by more than 10%. So if you're out there and you have miners and you're doing the air thing, the air cool thing, right? And you decide, hey, I want to go into the dielectric fluid piece, then there's an opportunity to use the REAP to get that 50% back. Now, here's another thing. I've seen this too, man. When you slide down here, the REAP is federal, right? That's the federal government. You're going to get some tax credits from the federal government and the state government. And I want to clarify something with one of the viewers. I know he's probably out there somewhere. He said, hey, man, I looked up REAP and it said they're only going to give me 50% back. You said I'll get 100% of my money back probably in 18 months or so. Well, that's true. 50% of it is the federal government, but another 50% of the savings is based on how you depreciate the asset, right? Your accountant's going to be involved in that. And then what your state incentives are, right? So I did a design for a peach farmer down in a peach farmer down. Yes.
Okay. So I just want to make one correction. That tax credit is also federal. So it's the ITC, and so on top of that, some states also have state incentives. Also, every state does not, but the 30% that's on the screen, that is also federal.
Okay, fantastic. So, man, when we went over that, I was like, man,
and
dang,
10%, right? Another 12%, depending on where you are. I just want to make that correction.
No, that's fantastic. And see, that's cool crypto convo, baby. We're going to get you the truth every single time. If I make a mistake, it's okay. Somebody can whack me later if I make another mistake. So here's where we are with this, though. The sum of all of the federal incentives and state incentives, almost in every case, man. I mean, Sarah, Adina, does anyone take more than, let's call it 2 years to get all their money back? Yes, no, maybe so.
No, we're seeing projects are basically paid off at the end of 1 year after all of the tax incentives and the grant and the value and energy savings is seen.
There you go.
So essentially, people are left with like 5 to 10% of the total project costs after all of the incentives. And sometimes they're at zero if there's a state incentive on top of all the other ones that are on your screen.
That's
so
fantastic.
It's pretty incredible.
So it's funny because Scott was laughing at me, man, down in Florida, everybody, because I put on the slide, before you say this is a scam, you need to go to the USDA website and look it up because it's real. It's one of those conduits. As crypto guys, we always talk about the money printer going brrr, where the money printer goes brrr, and they push out money to all these programs to see things happen that they want to happen. Well, one of those things is renewable energy. So that marries up well with the energy requirements necessary to do data mining and run a data center and mine for Bitcoin. You may want to watch your wording. They'll probably help you with that. But in reality, you know, we designed a solar system for a guy down in South Carolina, and his payback was like 14 months, but he was going to make 14% more than what he had put into it. It's absolutely mind-boggling. So please don't take my word for it. Go check it, verify, right? You guys know, you guys know how to be self-sovereign. Check it. And then when you do, get the phone number to these clean power consultants folks so we can save you some money, earn you some money, and keep the Bitcoin network more secure. Okay. And down at the bottom, it says that bonus depreciation piece, that's rolled into what I just spoke about. So the steps needed for your grant, this is their website right here, www.cleanpowerconsultants.com. Give them the information about your company. They're really, how can I say this? Nice, like nice people. They'll sit there and talk to you about the company and help you with ideas. And each one of you out there, you're going to have a different experience. I live in North Carolina. You know, Scott lives up north where it's freezing cold right now. I'm sure of it, period. And that's you too, Trevor, the technician. It's really cold up there. But hey, they're going to talk to you about your needs. Each one gets catered, right? Once they figure out that, yep, you're eligible, or you need to do this to be eligible, because some of us got to go out and buy some land out there to become eligible, right? Or put chickens in the backyard or something, goats. When you're done with that, you got to find your installer, or they'll help you find an installer in your area. They're going to put that project together just like if you were doing it anywhere else. But then when you're done with that packet, that installer is going to send that information to them, and they're going to marry what you gave them, what the installer gave them, make sure they have all the criteria set up for with their checklist that they have to make sure everything's good. And then they're going to submit that to the USDA, because the REAP program, Renewable Energy for America program, that falls under the USDA, right? When that gets approved, right, they're going to, they'll send out an award letter and they say, hey, you know what? You're approved. You got about 2 years. You got 2 years from that date to get it done, to complete the project. So it's not like, oh, they approved me today and I have to have the solar built tomorrow, right? Most of these projects are intricate, they're showing where it's going to sit on the building and all these sorts of things. But what you have to make sure happens is 2 years later, if you said you were building some putting up windmills or whatever, that you've completed that. And 30 days after it's complete, when you send that in, that's your proof that you actually did the work. 30 days after that, man, you're going to get a check, roughly, give or take. I mean, we know how that works, right? And I just listen to them talk about it, and I hear about it, and I'm like, wow, I have to tell my brothers and sisters in the crypto community about this potential gold mine for cutting your costs. 'Cause check this out. This is how I was looking at it. I'm being honest, right? Where's that thing right there? I always tell my sons, do what everybody else is not willing to do, right? Other 99% is not willing to do it. But here's what really happens. If I put $1 million worth of solar in the backyard and the REIT gives me $500,000 back, and then between the taxes and everything that's going on, I get all my money back, right? I got my initial $1 million, but I got $1 million system built in the backyard. But I own my electricity that's going to my miners. How does that work? How I don't understand. Like, all I know is this: there's a lot of times in my life when I tell people there's no such thing as a no lose situation. Nothing is not foolproof. But by goodness, man, I don't know. I'm to the point where I may be willing to sell some Bitcoin, literally, to buy even more to get up to the cap, and then watch that money come back to me, and then buy back in to the Bitcoin network. Because conceptually, and someone can comment on this later, conceptually in my mind's eye, if I'm using that Bitcoin as an investment, right, that's another tax write-off in and of itself. So it's been sitting around for all these years. I got to talk some more to the accountant. They're thinking about it now. Man, you really might just make out like a bandit, everybody. That's what I'm getting at. All right. So here's this one. And I was heckling Adina the other day about giving an example. And she said, hey, that's confidential. I can't give an example to anyone. So you know what she did, or about anyone? You know what she did? She gave me her approval letter, right? Because she's doing a little small project for herself, right? And here it is for everybody to see, you know. This, a small project down in Alabama. We flew the drone over. She cut down a bunch of trees, do a little taste testing, make sure, what she's really doing is proving to the family that all of this is real, right? Doing something small first. But you can see it right there, right? Total project cost is $62,000 and change. Let's call it 63, right? And then there's a half that they're going to award. There's a date. I put this in red. The little brown hand is mine. See, same thing, right? Where it says, hey, you have 2 years to complete that. That's the letter that I was just talking about. And then once this is done, right, you need to put on the work boots and the gloves along with your general contractor or your renewable energy installer and get to work. And once that work is complete, follow the remainder of the steps, and you're on your way. You're on your way. Community Change Grant, CCG. I'm an old military guy, so I made up CCG. That's what, I'm like, everything has to be an acronym, right? This is to help disadvantaged communities address, right, a wide range of issues, whether it be climate or what have you. This is a beautiful opportunity. It's like in Star Wars, man, the Empire can strike back. Okay, you talking this stuff about energy uses. Guess what we're doing? I already know you're out there because I listen to these mastermind sessions. The miners are already out there using stranded electricity, providing heat to whole cities, in some cases doing good things. But this is another feather in the cap if we can make this a big deal here in the United States. So this community change grant, 10 to 20 million bucks. It's about helping communities. I just looked at I think it's what I tell you was it in a 320,000 square foot old clothes factory or something like that. That it got shut down.
6.9 acres, yeah, 7.69.
Yeah, 6.5, 7 acre, manufacturing facility. It is an absolute horrible shape. But with a little foresight, we can bring that thing back to life, right? Help some nonprofits out, mine a little Bitcoin to heat it up, right? And help change that community by providing jobs, right? And that's what community change is all about. So you either have two nonprofits that you're going to partner with and bring them in. I spoke to a few members of their city council there a couple of days ago. I'm going to talk to the mayor here pretty soon too, because it starts to get political when you start talking money, right? And then the second piece to that is you can do one community-based nonprofit organization, and then add in a federally recognized tribe. So here it was the Lumbee community. It was just right up the street. So I'm like, hey man, we can do this together. Local government, higher education institution, a small community college or something like that's up the street. If you can partner, right, and reinvigorate, make something old new again, and help people, You can get a whole lot of money to build that facility. And if you want part of that heating apparatus, Trevor, I know Trevor's into using waste heat to heat things up. I am too. You're going to win. The community's going to win. The local government's going to win. But the little guy that's out there is going to win. And I think Bitcoin, more than anything that I've seen in my time on Earth, can really change the planet from sea to sea, from mountain to mountain, just the whole thing. It's pretty incredible. Next one here. What are the incentives of this thing? The community change grant pays 100% of the cost, right? Wow. This is I'm telling everybody, this is another one of those times where I'm like, this has got to be a scam. And then they show you the paperwork and you're like, wow, the government really will pay 100% of the cost if you meet all the criteria. And we're going to get into those, right? So the applicant must pay for expenses needed to prepare, right? Adina, you want to talk about brown sites really quickly, since that's been a hot topic the last few days? Brown
Okay,
site?
so quickly, this grant is, you can leave that slide up. For some reason, my face came up. They don't need to see my face. So 10 to 20 million, and Sarah, please jump in along the way. This project, that is the range that they're funding. If you come in less than that, they will decide if you fund, but they, the project is 10 to 20 million. If you can stay in that range, you can go over that, but this is the range that they're willing to fund. This is for nonprofits. Fred, can you go to the next slide real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
Different strategies. This has to address, like Fred is saying, it has to address pollution. It has to address everything that makes a community great, that needs improvement. So your business as a for-profit mining company can be in there, like he's saying, as part of heat. You're going to put electricity on the site that the community can use, or that you use. So there are many ways to incorporate this grant with a mining company. It just has to address the entire community. So for example, with the farm thing that we're trying to do, part of that, it's a Bitcoin mining farm on a real farm. So we'll use the heat from the miners for the farm. We'll use compost to power part of the farm, biomass, that all plays into it. So just don't think small, because it is 10 to 20 million. So it is really meant to help the entire community. And you can just look at all the different strategies there. Putting solar is a part of pollution reduction. You're not mining coal as much. Climate action, putting wind, whatever your area benefits from. But it has to help disadvantaged communities. And we have a map that, if you're interested in this grant, you think you can pull together nonprofits and maybe your mayor's office, or, that office in the community, we'll go through all that with you. Fred, can you go to the next page?
Yeah, I was going to ask Sarah to talk about the whole mix and matching deal, where you don't have to use one strategy.
Right.
Any thoughts,
so we're
Sarah?
gonna Right. So Sarah, jump in there, but let's show them. So you'll see all the strategies that they have given as samples. Some people will use a brownfield site. That's a site that's been ruined, like Michigan, Detroit. You go through Indiana, you see factory after factory after factory where they did business there. They abandoned these buildings. The soil is useless. Asbestos everywhere. They just got up and left. And you have whole areas that look like war zones. And so if those sites have been remediated and the soil is cleaned up, you can now go put solar on that, or your Bitcoin mining farm. And now you are showing that you are helping that area. So these are all the different strategies that you can use. You have to use just these. Fred, can you go to the next page? So here are more strategies, and you can mix and match strategies, but you do need to try to hit targeting climate, climate change, environmental, how helping the environment, how are you helping the health of the community, you know, powering through Bitcoin with the heat of Bitcoin miners, that helps the community, you know. So all of that is what this grant's about. Sarah, you want to jump in there?
I mean, I would just, the one thing, anytime that there's job creation in an area where jobs are scarce, that, that would be a huge help to any project. But yeah, there's many, many different strategies and creative solutions for this grant. It is an extremely competitive grant. Anytime you're in the 10 to 20 million range, these are it's a hard grant to get, but certainly worth the effort if you have a good project.
It's fantastic. Hey, man, I tell you what, everybody. Someone told me I have a memory palace. And I promise you, all the lessons I've learned around the world in the military, contracting people, I plan to put every one of them to use, right down to hiring the local lawnmower guy to mow the lawn, to keep the panels from being shaded and siphoning off some of that potential energy production. So that's good stuff. The steps needed for the community change grant are right here. It's very similar to the REAP grant, in my opinion. Except you got to have a plan on the front end, but that's the same thing as your contractor putting things out. But think vision wise, and in our community, I don't think vision is too much of an issue. The one piece I'd like to emphasize, and that's an estimate that I put in there, on the tail end of a grant this large, right? You're gonna owe some reporting back to the mothership, back to the government, to show that you're doing what you're supposed to do. And I'd say that when you do that, you should filter that through Clean Power Consultants, because I've heard Adina complain a lot of times, and she doesn't beat anybody up, but she'll go, man, I wonder why people skip over the expert and they try to do it, and then it comes right back and they have to come back to us anyway. Why not just save yourself the trouble and have an expert go through it? And I think we were on a chat one time, and she was saying, how many pages did you say one of those grants were? The larger ones? Hundreds of pages?
120 to 500 to 1,000 pages. But this grant, the community change grant, because it is a large grant, we're anticipating 1,000 to 2,000 pages needed for this grant. And so it's imperative, and it must be done correctly.
Right.
So it's yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Because I know you guys are short on time.
Yeah, let's go to questions.
So we do have a bunch of questions that have come in. If you guys are done with the presentation, we'll pull that slide deck off of here now. So let's see.
Okay.
I don't need to be just. All right. Let's see. We do have a bunch of questions. So the first question, and I'll put this up on screen here. I don't know how Elon feels about these programs. Let's see. What do you guys know anything about that? Whether or not they'll be changing in the future?
Well, in regards to the REAP program, that's part of the Farm Bill, and they've just funded it through the end of 2027. So that money is already allocated to the program. It would be very hard to pull the funding, but we don't know. I mean, anything's, we don't know if it's theoretically that's not possible.
Yes. So to add what you said, Sarah, I was there's a government process called the PALM process, where money's, what you said, is allocated and dispersed, what have you. And you're correct. And it's a 4-year cycle. So what one president does, the next president does, there's some overlap there. And I'm just backing you up. You're like, I'm not sure, but I'm backing you up. In the Army, I used to spend about $18 billion a month during the war between my colleagues and I. And trust me, once that money is allocated, they can't go back on it, or they risk getting sued by everybody involved that changed their whole life cycle to make that thing happen.
The REAP program was formed under the Obama administration. So 2009 was the first year they accepted grant applications in the program, and the REAP program has survived, all of that time. So it's fairly reliable. Other grant programs, there, like the community change grant, some of these larger programs where there's like $2 billion in the program or something, those will be one time, or they'll be accepting applications once a year. And it's not always guaranteed that they'll be available each year.
Awesome. Thank you. The next question is on the screen.
Yes, it went away. I'd love to see it. So it's grant. Yes, you have to own the system. So you can either whatever the utility is charging you.
Adina, you were breaking out.
Okay.
Can you start over?
Can you guys? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear
so
you.
Yes, you need to offset whatever your electricity that you're using, or you can generate and sell the power to another company, back to the grid. You want to crunch the numbers to see what's more profitable for you, but you are going to own that system, whether you're leasing the land from someone or whether you own the land. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers it. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I can add just a bit. So the applicant should own the land or the facility where the grant will, or where the solar will be installed, or they should have a long-term lease, which would be 25 years or longer. They should be listed on the applicant should be listed on any financial statements, bank statements. They should also be listed on their power bill. And then lastly, they should be the entity to benefit from the solar offset. So if pieces of that equation, if there's a separate owner in all of those pieces, it complicates the application. So they want to see like one entity owning and benefiting from that solar system.
Hey, and I'm just going to chime in, triple decker this thing, just for those listening. When we say like the solar offset, like the money earned, you can just insert renewable energy offset, because it's all those other things too.
Yeah.
Wave energy, wind energy, all those things. It's just it's solar. We're mammals, right? Most of this stuff is going to be on land, and all of us have to occupy land somewhere. So solar it's just the norm, but it's all of them. So just apply it to all renewable energy sources. Go ahead, Trevor.
All right, so here's the next question.
Ooh.
Yeah, we'd have to do a bit of we can just do a direct conversation with you. There's some factors we'd have to determine for that. So just schedule a call with us or send an email to us, and we can set up a time to talk that through and establish if you're eligible or not.
Hey, can you slide the phone number in the chat just in case, just to make sure?
Well, I'll just put my email and my
Perfect.
And then we can schedule a call.
Perfect. And that goes back to each situation being unique. It really is.
The next question is, can you get these REAP grants if you live in Mississippi? You can have the REAP applies to all of the states in the U.S., including the territories. So yes.
So by territory, she means, you know, if you're in Puerto Rico, a location like that, that's U.S. soil, you qualify for REAP. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. The next question is, what are the requirements for each business in the field of power site management? Because I know regulations in the power markets are extremely strict. Not just anyone can build a 20 megawatt solar plant.
So that depends on what you're trying to build. The REAP, okay. Community change grant, because that's a different thing altogether. The REAP only goes up to paying 1 million. So if you want to build more than that, you can become qualifying. So for everyone, there's things called qualifying facility.
Adina, if you can hear me,
generating
you
systems. So for example, you may
Adina,
I
you
am
broke
sorry.
you broke off for about
yes.
No, don't be sorry. It's okay. Just start back over about 30 seconds ago, and then that way we can
okay. So if you have a facility that is generating power to sell to the utility or to Amazon, that's okay. The REAP is only going to reverse you up $1 million. It's on you to do all of your paperwork as a qualifying facility, meaning you've contacted your utility company to get the permits necessary and what they call the interconnection agreement. Okay. I'm sorry, Sarah, go ahead. My connection is terrible.
Well, I was going to say just generally, for any project, especially the larger projects, you're going to have an agreement with the utility that you're working with. You may have a power purchase agreement, and then you're going to also have to meet any kind of local permitting and licensing requirements. And most of the time, the solar contractor will assist with those, especially the permitting and licensing. And then on the interconnection agreements, that's something that, for a 20 megawatt project, people certainly need support with. That's going to include working with a lawyer and a larger consulting team. And we support some of that work to the extent that we can. But yes, I mean, it's a 20 megawatt project would take a few months to get started just on receiving the agreements for the project.
So our next question is from George. George is asking, what about contaminated water wells? He's got a few that he can light on fire. I think the question is if they're cleaning up contaminated water wells, is that a viable project for the REAP?
So not for the REAP, but there certainly is through the USDA and EPA. I mean, there's a number of programs that will give out grants for this type of cleanup work. And we can help do some of the research. I don't know if it would combine with a renewable energy project, but there is state and federal money, depending on where you are, to support that type of work.
So I'd like to add something in right quick, Trevor. When it comes, definitely give them a call. Sarah Settle, I'm going to tell you straight up, I could never find the grant people, man. You got them right now, write it down, give her a call. Because I'm 100% sure that cleaning up something that's environmentally harmful is just what she said. They're going to give you some money. You just need to get with the people that can help you do it. If I'm not mistaken, one of the criteria for the community change grant, right, is partially kind of doing the whole environmental thing. So if you're telling somebody, what was that movie, Aaron Brockovich, where they could light up the doggone river? If you can do an Aaron Brockovich on your local well, I guarantee you you bring the right people to bear, they're going to help you. So that's just the country boy version of what Sarah said. But I'm saying do it. Give it a call. Make the call. Go ahead, Trevor.
So the next question is, do you know of any miners in New York receiving a REAP grant? This person is considering the mining moratorium by the state. On the CCG, I'm a professor and run a Bitcoin mining program at my state university. Would this be eligible?
Wow.
Okay.
The university itself wouldn't be eligible. For the REAP program, you need to be a small business or an ag producer. On the community grant, yeah, there is a potential that you could be eligible. And I don't know that I could speak too much to the New York State policy on the Bitcoin mining. So I would have to do research on that to answer that question.
We'd want to research that because New York, some states have to be alerted or notified. They participate with the REAP on approval for the REAP grant. And I believe New York is probably one of those states. So if there's a moratorium on it, we definitely need to make phone calls before we even begin your project to make sure that it would be considered.
Hey,
we are working on projects in New York, and we are getting projects funded in New York. They're not exactly the same structure that you're talking about, but we certainly are seeing grant awards come in from New York State.
Yes.
So also with that, everyone, understand it. Not only do the policies change from state to state, they literally change from county to county and jurisdiction to jurisdiction between the electric companies, right? So when I worked solar a few years back, just to learn the business, you can find that on my side of the street, you know, I have one electric co-op and Duke controls them. One block over, there may be Piedmont Power, and they have different parameters. So what I caution everybody to take a look at least is check with your local energy provider too to see who and where they are. When you get in with your energy provider, whoever's working your contract, they're going to ask you for a copy of your last probably 12 energy bills, right? And it's so much more than trying to get into your business. A lot of people think, oh, you want to know what I'm spending on my business. It's like, no, they want to know specifically who your co-op is, right? What, not just the energy rate, what the laws are, so they can research the jurisdiction. So when you start to get into this stuff, no one's doing anything haphazard, right? Or shady. What it is they have to get to the exact rules in your city and county and state so they can provide you the proper service. So don't shy away when someone starts asking you about specifics, because the energy business, as you all know, can be really, really ruthless, like really ruthless, right? And at the same time, it can be very, very rewarding if you have the right information and the right people on your side. In fact, I'll say this: if they don't ask for your electric bill, you should be concerned because they're missing something. That's just my opinion. Go ahead, Trevor.
So this one's also from Michael Kelly, and it kind of pairs with the last question. Can the CCG be paired with other federal grants? In example, the NSF grant?
Which was the first grant he wondered if we could combine it with? The community.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm looking back for it.
Most of the time, so I, again, would have to research to be 100% sure. Most of the time you can certainly combine grant funding because it's seen as matching funds and dedication to the project. So if you have a $20 million project and you have a $3 million grant that you've already secured from another funding source, they're going to view that and give you points on having matching funds. There are some cases where you can't receive 2 federal grants. And so we'd have to do the research on the specific opportunity for that question.
This next question is a little bit long, but Festus is from Nigeria, and he's leading a Bitcoin mining team. They're scaling their operations by utilizing stranded or underutilized water resources in rural areas to generate clean energy for mining. A portion of the revenue supports socioeconomic growth in host communities. Although we've submitted grant applications for the above proposal, we have been unsuccessful. They would appreciate your team's guidance in navigating grants for sub-Saharan Africa. Is that something that you can do? Is that part of your purview, helping with outside of the nation?
We can certainly do the research. There are so the federal government typically announces all of their funding for federal grant programs, or most of it anyways, goes out in the first quarter of the year. So if we're going to see funding on any kind of like specific projects such as this or other projects that some of you might have in mind, we'll see the funding announcements in December, January, and then there'll be like a 60 or 90-day window to respond. That type of project would be funded through a different government agency. It's definitely not going to be like the DOE or a USDA grant. But I've certainly seen funding that's available for something like that. So I just put in the chat our contact us page. And so if you don't want us, you can send us an email, or you can send us a request to get in touch with you as well.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question that I just want to make sure I'm clear. Is the project that he was just referring to in the United States or in Nigeria?
It's in Nigeria. He was asking if there's something that you could help with the research and development of the project. Okay,
so here's a tip for him. I don't know if he's on LinkedIn because that's an American deal, but I guess I can try to put this in the chat. I have a friend from like 2-3 years back. Her husband's from Nigeria, and they do a lot of she's in Australia now, but her name is Charlene Federico. Just at some point send a note to Sarah or Adina, but Charlene does a lot of work in Nigeria, and I have another friend there, Heritage. They're in the same kind of deal. They're experts. Far more versed. I can't even speak another language outside a little bit of German and Spanish, so I wouldn't be qualified to do that. But I can point you to someone that maybe can help you, because we all know in Nigeria, the folks running the digital naira may not be friendly toward Bitcoiners. Just being honest. Although the country is fantastic, you move in their own circles. It's not good. So maybe I can point you to some people that can help way more than I can.
Thank you, Fred. So our next question, and we have time for about 4 more questions after this. Can you do a startup with REAP?
Yes, you can apply as a startup. There's a few specific additional requirements that you'd have in the application, but you can certainly apply as a new company.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. So Eric's asking, how much more competitive do you expect the REAP grants to be for 2025 to 2027 with the reduced funding, since the IRA is no longer boosting the funds available?
So they've funded the REAP program at the 50% level through the end of 2027. And there's 3 deadlines throughout the year to apply. People are starting to see these projects be installed. And so, they're seeing more of them out in their community. The USDA has to get the word out. It's their job to share this information with people and let them know that they can apply. Certainly the competition is increasing. We're still seeing a really high success rate, but one downside is we are seeing that it's taking longer to receive a grant award. So it's 3 to 9 months is what you can expect for the turnaround on the award. So it's, it's a lengthy process.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
So Tony's asking, how much is available for REAP on a state level and a nationwide level now?
I don't have the number for the nationwide amount at this time. They just published the NOFA in the Federal Register on the 16th. And I mean, there's like Arizona, for example, has, I think it was 5.5 million for 2025, and each state is going to receive different funding amounts. So, so it varies in each state.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So can a land?
And some of those states also, like I just spoke to the Arizona rep, and she does not have her farm bill amount yet. That's going to be added in. So they're still waiting on other money that will come in to help fund this program.
Yeah, and it's confusing because you compete on the state level, and then if a project isn't funded at the state level from the state pot of money, then it will go on to compete in a federal pool of applicants, which is much bigger. So even if Arizona has a limited amount of funding, there's still another pot of money that the project can be funded through. So the dollar amounts are actually higher than it appears on what they publish for each state's allocation.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So the next question, can a landowner apply if they have a solar battery storage lease on their land? And then can the leasee apply as well?
Yeah, we'd have to work through the details with you on that one just to see who's benefiting. I don't think you can apply just for batteries, for one. And then we'd have to just talk through how the arrangement would work to see if that would be an eligible project.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Next question. I have a new technology for generating power. I don't want the government to own any part of my IP. Will the grant help me or hinder me in this case?
Well, for REAP, so there's, if you're looking for a grant to, like develop some kind of facility to like manufacture a new technology or something, that there is federal money for that. But under the REAP program, any kind of technology you use, solar, hydropower, anything, it has to be technology that's commercially available. So that's something we have to prove in every application that we submit, is that it's commercially available to anybody on the open market, and that anyone can go and purchase it. So for the REAP, probably wouldn't be a good fit for the REAP program. And certainly if you're going to apply for a federal grant, they would have access to all of your information.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you for that one. Go ahead real quick, Fred.
No, I was going to say, you have to prove so IP, for those that may not know, in another country is intellectual property. About 99% of the time is what we're talking about, right? Something newly created. If you have to prove that it's 10% more efficient, right? And there's no data out there on it, you're going to have to prove it. And by proving it, you're going to have to show the data. So, I support Sarah's position for sure. Just remember, everybody, that the whole purpose of this is for you to cut your costs, right? Be more efficient, and move forward. And you have to weigh the give and take between that, because if you're in intellectual property and you're a startup, it may be worth spending some money to get ahead, to move to the next phase. Go ahead, Trevor. I'm sorry.
All right. So this is the last question we have time for today. And the question is, if my business is located in a rural area, would I be able to use REAP to build solar in a non-rural area with more favorable net metering agreements and transfer the credits to my rural business?
So no, but let me just define rural. Under this program, rural is designated as population is 50,000 or less, according to the last the most recent census. So the project has to be located in an area where the population is 50,000 or less, but it can go the other way. You can have your headquarters in Chicago and develop a project in a rural area.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I would like to give you guys a couple of minutes just to, you know, say your last words. I appreciate all of you being here. Fred, Sarah, Adina, you guys did an amazing job today. We appreciate you being part of our Mastermind Club presentation, and just get, you know, a couple more minutes to say whatever you want to say.
Well, yeah, we're here for questions. As you can tell, you know, there's a lot of specifics to each project. So we do an intro call with every single person we work with and talk through all those details for everybody. So, you know, yeah, reach out to us. We're here to answer questions and help you get your projects funded.
Okay. Yes. So for anybody who's trying to get a hold of these ladies after this call, our Mastermind Club group chat on Telegram, which you'll see that on the bottom of the screen rolling through. If you just sign up for that, join our Mastermind Club. It's free to join. You'll be able to connect to these ladies personally and kind of talk over your project. But with that, guys, thank you so much for being here today. And we will see you in 2 weeks for the next Mastermind Deep Dive.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us in the Mastermind Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us next week where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week.
All right, guys, that was a great